Greetings from Costa Rica, folks. Thank you very much for joining me for today's 12th Real Estate Forum. My name is Matt Rosensteel, aka Costa Rica Matt. Every Friday live at noon, because I have nothing better to do, I'm talking about Costa Rica real estate live on YouTube. You are welcome and encouraged to post comments, questions. If you want me to look at a real estate listing and give my opinion on it, feel free to paste that listing in the comments or give us some information about it so that we can see it. My assistant Dimitri is standing by to bring up listings that you want to hear about. Today's real estate forum is going to be a focus on price reductions in our market. And I don't want to just go through a long list of where prices are moving, etc., and verbatim give hundreds of price reductions. Instead, I intend to talk a little bit about the philosophy of price reductions, why we're seeing them in May, and also why I tend to avoid them as much as possible when I'm representing a seller. Of course, we will talk about some price reductions as well. We have a fire sale property that we want to talk about that is move-in ready for you to come to Costa Rica and live, now priced at $90,000. That price reduction is because, frankly, people need to move on. They're asking only $90,000 for their humble property here, very close to the beach, and that will be one of the listings we talk about. Finally, at the end of the episode today, after we've had all of our listing and informative fun, we do also have a return of the Rager of the Week. Thanks to an Instagram reel that I published about a beachfront property, we were able to get some very negative feedback from a viewer out there that I want to share and celebrate because, frankly, it's the best way for me to get people to stop commenting like that. Again, my name is Matt Rosensteel, owner-broker of Coldwell Banker Pacific Realty here in Playa Junquial, Guanacaste, Costa Rica. Thanks for joining me and stay tuned. Welcome to Costa Rica, Matt. Today is Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. And here in Costa Rica, that means absolutely nothing for the people who really don't celebrate Mexican holidays. Just because it sounds Central American and sort of colonial Spanish, Cinco de Mayo here isn't special, but it is a wonderful day in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. We're in the transition from the dry season to the green season. And for some reason, we're seeing a good number of price reduction emails in our inboxes as realtors here in Guanacaste. Why might this be happening? What's the philosophy and why don't I do that very often? Let's talk about price reductions a little bit in the general sense first and foremost. Again, if you have any questions or if you want me to look at real estate listings, post in the comments. Don't hesitate to do so, and we'll come back to them. May is typically a time of year in Guanacaste when you see a dramatic drop-off in the number of people visiting. And it feels very much to anybody like sellers of real estate, like the market has suddenly plummeted. You really might go to Tamarindo on April 28th and see the vibrant tourism happening. Go back on May 15th and think, oh my gosh, what happened here? There's nobody out on the street relative to just 2 weeks ago. But the main effect is that everybody is gearing up for travel in June, July, and August. Americans, Canadians, and Europeans, who are by far the vast majority of travelers, are not traveling in May because they probably went to a sunny location during their winter to avoid January and February, and they are likely also going to go somewhere during their kids' school vacation. We'll get a good pop in tourism here in June and July, but effectively for people who are selling real estate, it can start to feel a bit nerve-wracking. If they had listed their property back in November of 2022, Now they've had an entire high season where lots of people came and went. They probably had more showings than they're going to have any time else in the year. And that's one of the primary reasons you start to see in May a pretty healthy number of price reduction emails. We haven't sold our inventory. It's exactly like a Carnival shoe warehouse. Every week, the stuff that doesn't sell, actually, this is Discount Shoe Warehouse, I'm sorry, DSW. Every week, the inventory doesn't sell. The sticker adds a 10% discount, and they're trying to push it a little bit more. It's not anything weird in economics. Here in Guanacaste, we're especially feeling it this May, obviously because of the deteriorating, questionable world economic situation where a lot of sellers are also thinking, oh shoot, did I just miss my big opportunity to sell my property, or will I miss it? Because if they were here in 2008 and they met some of the people who, for example, developed projects for sale in 2009, those people still own their property 6 years later. Some of them couldn't sell it for 5 or 10 years because of the effects of the crash. So those nerves are starting to come into sellers' mindsets. It always happens in May, every May. A lot of brokerages say, look, you didn't sell your property this high season. How about we talk about a price reduction? Another big reason that I think you're seeing these is frankly the overheated prices that we had in 2022. It was a wonderful seller's market in March and April of last year when sellers could basically ask anything that they wanted if they had a prime property. And the price people would pay did, in my opinion, become detached from reality in certain circumstances. So all of a sudden, you're seeing some of these sellers snap a little bit back to earth. I've had a lot of conversations with sellers, for example, who listed their property and felt that, yeah, our agent just threw out a number. We're still listed, and now we're doing a reduction. So the frothy prices in 2022 obviously have something to do with the fact that everyone's trying to adjust down a little bit right now. Here's a quick comment on why I don't personally believe in price reductions. First and foremost, I do hope to do a reasonable evaluation when I list a property as to where I think it should sell. Second, I often feel that once you've listed a property at the market price that you felt was appropriate, a lot of times in Guanacaste, the seller's patience will be rewarded. The reasons listings can sit on the market might not be because it's priced by $50,000 or $100,000 too much, but really it's that there wasn't the right buyer who came through this season. And rather than reducing your price by $100,000, first, let's try another year where we've got more momentum or a different marketing approach. And very often I think that if you've got a reasonable price for the property to begin with, you should prepare your sellers to be patient in this cash market. Stuff doesn't fly off the shelves in Costa Rica. And rather than bothering sellers about reducing their price, usually my first dozen emails to them say, okay, we're going to try it on Facebook with a different video. Or I'm going to do a post of the pictures and try to appeal to, I don't know, bird watchers. Or maybe we missed the Tamarindo audience by not reposting that Instagram reel. Because often, people in Guanacaste, this is an imperfect real estate market where sellers simply aren't getting the exposure they need. They aren't actually connecting with the right buyer. And instead of just saying, oh, you've got to be cheaper with your price, it's how can we connect with the right buyer and get you more income. There are some times when, price reductions are absolutely necessary. Let's start out talking about actual reductions we've seen recently in the market by going over some of our non-brokerage reductions, some that have not happened in-house here at Coldwell Banker Pacific Realty. First, I thought was an interesting one. There was a lot in Playa Potrero Surfside, where real estate has been just about as hard to get as you can imagine. And we had a 900 square meter lot, which is about a quarter acre, reduced to just $125,000. In Surfside, lots sold absolutely for a much higher price at the peak of the frothiness. I am absolutely going to assume that this price point reflects the fact that the lot does not have guaranteed water access as of this date. And even still, it's interesting to see in Surfside, $125,000 for a 900 square meter lot, walking distance to the beach. You're buying this assuming it doesn't have a water letter, because if it did have a water letter, the price should be much higher. But you're purchasing this property with the future promise that once the water situation has been resolved and once there's clarity among the bureaucracy running water and you'll be able to develop the property. So that's a pretty big liability. And even in Surfside at $125,000, which is really over $120 per square meter, $130 on that one, you know, I have no doubt that reducing to $125 on the asking price, they're soon going to find a buyer for that. And it'll likely be someone who's more than willing to patiently wait for their water. Next, let's move on to a La Esquina Langosta condo. And I'm sorry, I don't want to bring these up on screen. I will go over here to my trusty map so that you can see where we are talking about in Playa Langosta. Just a moment, please. Here we are. La Esquina is a pretty sought-after condo complex in Langosta, which to begin with is a sought-after community. You can see here, I've covered it before. It's an extension onto Playa Tamarindo that is kind of a la-di-da residential high-end extension onto Tamarindo. You would find nicer condos here than in Tamarindo. You find nicer luxury homes. And on average, your square meter of real estate is going to cost you, or your square meter of condo or home is going to cost you more here in Langosta. That's largely because they have a row of multi-million-dollar homes on the beachfront that are titled property. These really bring up the neighborhood with listing prices from $3 million for an older, really simple beachfront home, all the way into the stratosphere, 7 or 8 million. Let's get to the point here, Matt, and talk about La Esquina, these condos here in Langosta. One's been reduced to $499, and I've got to try and bring it up here on Google Maps while we're doing it. Here we are, ultra close to the beach. You're actually in a smaller complex. I can't remember how many there are, but there's only something like 16 or 20 total units in La Esquina. I am going to also look and see, I might have the full list of comps for where these condos had closed over the years, but unfortunately not at the moment. We'll have to check another spot. But down at $499, you're seeing La Esquina condos come back down into really what would be the, oh shoot, we don't have it. Nope, unfortunately, I don't have the exact comps for it. But I wanted to say we're coming back into what is reality for these kinds of condos. Part of the reason you've seen La Esquina not sell over the last high season was that whatever price it had been at was likely the highest historic price because of that 2022 bubble effect. When I'm looking specifically at that resort, it's in a location where essentially everything sold and you didn't see much stay on the market over this past high season. I previously had people looking at La Esquina. The HOA fees can be considered very high, but that's part of what you get when you have a smaller complex. They do have elevators there. And like I said, if this condo has sat on the market, it's likely because, like a lot of Langosta condos, it was priced at the absolute top premium price point that you had seen when they put it on the market. Excellent question from my viewer, Ahmed. Appreciate it. Do we think we'll be seeing more fire sales in the upcoming months due to all these factors you mentioned? Absolutely, you will be. However, I don't think it's going to be California scale fire sales. That was a really bad, like, unsympathetic analogy. In Costa Rica, obviously, you've got everybody owning in cash. Right now, those fire sales are going to be people who are losing their buns for one reason or another in the ongoing financial changes up in the US. For example, if the executives of regional banks in the US own property in Costa Rica, perhaps you're going to see them fire selling their property very soon. You might... I was going to come up with some other examples of who might be losing themselves right now, but the point is, it's not going to be a huge number. You will see a limited number. Most everybody, the expats who own property out here, not only did they buy in cash, but they were generally buying a second or third home in cash. So these people are generally watching the economic good and bad times come and go. They can wait out the bad times, and you won't see a million people springing to fire sale their property. Let's move on. I want to talk about one of our most important team price reductions here. And I've got to bring up the listing in just a moment. A condo that I actually really, oh, that was the wrong link. Here we go. Control C and Control. You're kidding me. This is giving me such a difficult time. There we go. Bingo. Villas Venado condo number 4. This is one of my listings. We had it at $325,000. It's actually only been on the market for 2 or 3 months. But this is an example of a personal circumstance where a seller really wants to just move back. This condo and all of the units in Villas Venado are great examples of what happened in 2009. The developers finished these condos in Junquillal, getting ready for the next wave of development back in 2009. And they turned down a couple of offers they received on the units back then and ended up owning the condos until we sold them just after the pandemic. This unit for sale is one of the people who bought right after the COVID-19 travel restrictions were lifted. And after being at $325,000 for about that month or two listing period, they've gone down to $298,000. Part of this, they had listed their condo at $325,000 because they were being great neighbors. The neighboring condo was also listed at $325,000. They said, that's no problem. I'll keep my listing price there. The neighboring condo, Villas Venado number 2, is now under contract. So that was the impetus for this particular price reduction. They no longer need to support their neighbor in getting good income from their unit. They want to sell. And if you've been watching my channel, you've seen me talking about Villas Venado year after year after year. Let's try and come over to CostaRicaMatt.com for just a moment and take a look at Villas Venado in our 360-degree world. Remember, if you'd like to get access to this tour, don't hesitate to send me an email to matt@cbpacificrealty.com. This is a fully interactive 3D video environment where, for example, you can stand, roll in. If you put on your VR headset and looked to your left, the screen would do this. You would be hearing the sounds of the waves, and You could basically look in 360 degrees and take a virtual trip to the beach. In this world, we also have 3D tours, obviously, of properties for sale. Isn't that convenient? Here is Vias Venado, the common areas. You have an over 50-foot pool. There are only 8 condos in the complex, so very rarely do you see too many people in the pool. In fact, of the 8 total units, I've only seen, at the top ever was 6 or 7 people in the pool. And we actually, let me see if we've got the 3D. Oh, we don't have this in here. Victor, if you're watching, we need to get these things so I can click on them right now, integrated into this 3D world. But in the near future, you will be able to go inside the condo that is for sale on this 3D tour. Anyhow, Victor's not coming in to do this right now. I'm looking, this is probably our outdated listing. Perfect, here we go. Here's the cool thing about our 3D tours. Seamlessly, we're in a condo. This is not the condo that is actually for sale, but will give us a good idea of the layout. Up front, you've got a really wide living space with a huge patio. Your bedrooms and bathrooms are on the back part of the condo. If we go into the master here, oops, sorry. This is the guest bedroom actually on this side of the condo. They had it set up with twins. It has a Jack and Jill bathroom in the guest. And essentially in the master, you've then got an ensuite bathroom that would be back in here behind this wall. And then really what they did wonderfully well in these condos, besides creating this really big open space here, you've got an enormous patio. If you dream of moving to Costa Rica, oh my gosh, this is the condo for sale. Interesting. So they have painted and changed out the furniture in this unit since we took the 3D tour online. Today, this is actually the condo for sale here. You've got here walking distance very easily down to over to the pool here. So that's interesting. This for sale signs on this side of the complex. It's actually this condo for sale right here. And yes, we were in the 3D tour. Again, the asking price now for this condo is $298,000, reduced from $325,000. It's one of my listings. And as I mentioned, I don't like to do them, but these are sellers who are ready to move on, and they don't want price to be the obstacle stopping their right buyer from purchasing the property. Any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? Feel free to post them in the comments, whether you're watching live or as a replay. You can also email me. Hopefully we've had my address up on the screen at one time or another. 2 more things that I want to touch on to wrap up here, folks. First is our First is our fire sale, the $90,000 turnkey cozy homestead property. And second will be our Rager of the Week as planned. First, let's talk about our fire sale cozy homestead property located here in Playa Junquial itself. The folks who own this property also need to move on. There is a single bedroom, like a studio container property here with a beautiful little porch. There's a workshop. The property is ready to go if you're the kind of person who really just wants to live simply and wants to get a property close to the beach in Costa Rica. At $90,000, there are very few options on the market. Here's the inside of the home container. It's a totally livable little place. A couple lives in it now. If you were single, obviously this would be a perfect spot. The property can be built out. It's actually 1,500 square meters, or over a third of an acre. If we go, looking at the wider property, you've got plenty of areas where you could build a future home, add little cabinas down in these areas. You could put a pool up by the container. You could really add on as much as you want to. They have garden beds already set up. Here's that workshop I was talking about. The workshop is a movable steel frame structure. So if you want to put your house here, you can easily just lift this up, relocate it to a different spot on the lot, and build your home there. And the amazing thing is it's 15 minutes walking distance to one of the most beautiful beaches in our area, called Playa Blanca. You take rural roads to get out to the beach in this spot that is just spectacular. Let's go down here and take a 360-degree tour looking at Playa Blanca down at the sand. Again, this is on CostaRicaMatt.com, my 360-degree virtual world. And we are enjoying the spectacular white sand of Playa Blanca just to the north of Junquillal. You can move these videos around. If you're using a phone or tablet on this tour, you can look around and the gimbal or that sort of effect will work as well. You can, in some of these videos, you can definitely find turtles swimming in the waves. There's all kinds of cool stuff to look at. Don't want to spy on those people quite that much. But this is Playa Blanca, and this is really can't be emphasized enough just how beautiful in Costa Rica it can be. You know, there's one building up here. There's a chance that there's going to be a luxury community up on the bluff. But this is going to be an untouched, undeveloped, jungle-lined strip of beach forever. Living close to this kind of place is probably going to make you happier. I can't guarantee that, to be honest, but this is a 15-minute walk away from the $90,000 property that we have for sale right here. So if you're sitting there and dreaming of moving to Costa Rica and immediately having your own home ready to go, this could be an excellent option for anybody who doesn't have one of those huge, huge checkbooks. To move on, finally, let's ice this cake, folks. We had a Rager of the Week. I am trying to put myself out on social media as much as possible because I put bread on the table for 2 boys and my loving wife. And in doing so, I can definitely incur some negative comments. People don't like realtors in general. They don't like realtors selling Costa Rica. They don't like me selling Costa Rica, or they think that something I'm doing is just ludicrous. Well, today's Rager of the Week, we want to give special congratulations to Pascal for this gem. He was responding to a reel about a beachfront property here in Costa Rica and says, "You guys in Costa Rica lost totally control about the values of a piece of land. Shame on you." I absolutely think that he has a point when it comes to the price of this property. We're asking $699,000 for a 1/3 acre beachfront site. That is absurd. It's close to $700 or it's $500 per square meter for a building site on the oceanfront in Costa Rica. Pascal, I think as somebody who appreciates real estate so much, you could definitely understand that when Costa Rica eliminated 99% of the titled beachfront possibilities along their coastline, when they made it so that anything within 250 meters of the water was restricted to concession development, Costa Rica took a huge leap forward in that it made it hard to develop the coastline. And today, the value of that land, the value of the beaches is enormously high because the Costa Rica government has made it so difficult to develop. If you'd like to see cheaper beachfront real estate in Costa Rica, we would have more construction. We'd have more light affecting turtles nesting along it. If we had cheaper real estate along the beach, you'd see lower developers, people who want to put in surf hostels or $10 rooms per night, people who want to sell, cheap booze to idiot tourists. You'd have them all along the coast, developing that cheap beachfront real estate into exactly what you have in the great state of Florida. Instead, you have these restrictive laws that make it almost impossible to own the coastline. And honestly, having lived in Costa Rica for 15 years and raised my boys on those jungle-lined beaches, I'm pretty happy that the Costa Rica government made beachfront real estate that insanely expensive. I'm happy to help sellers get the absolutely most ludicrous high prices for the real estate possible. And I'm extremely happy to be living in a place where, it's pretty difficult to develop the beaches and not quite as easy as it is in Destin. Thanks for watching, folks. See you next Friday at noon.